The Ark Raiders Northline update just landed, and there's a lot to unpack. Not just what's in it, but what it actually means for how you play, what kind of runs you should focus on, and how the game is evolving overall. This isn't a surface level breakdown. I've been really watching what Embark is doing with this event, and it's clear they're testing a new way of keeping the world alive by literally putting progression in the community's hands. So let's start right there. The new update kicks off with the Breaking New Ground event. This isn't just a typical patch drop where you log in and immediately start exploring new areas. This time, the entire community has to earn access to the new map called Stella Montis. It's part of the Northline update there, and it launches alongside a global event. Every player's contribution counts. You gather a resource called basic materials while you play, and those materials feed into a giant shared progress pool. Once the community hits certain thresholds, we collectively unlock Stella Montis for everyone. That means no single player or team can speedrun their way into it alone. It's about steady participation across the whole player base. The design behind that choice is actually clever. It keeps the launch weekend exciting and cooperative, even for people who usually play solo. There's something motivating about knowing that your 5th or 10th run might be what pushes the global bar a little closer to completion. But that also means your early time with this patch shouldn't just be random, it's worth being efficient. Your first few sessions should probably focus on quick missions that reliably drop basic materials, so you're not wasting energy chasing low-yield objectives. You'll still earn loot and progression while actively contributing to unlocking the new map faster. Now let's talk about Stella Montis itself. The devs described it as a cold industrial region with more structure and less open wasteland compared to earlier zones. Expect harsh lighting, tight corridors, vertical routes, and exposure to weather effects that could actually change your tactical approach. The map seems designed around methodical movement, less running through open fields and more holding corners, setting traps, and managing line of sight. If that's true, then this environment naturally elevates area control tools like the new mines and grenades added in this update. You're not just fighting arcs, you're managing choke points, establishing perimeters, and timing your fights with precision. Speaking of fights, 2 new enemy types are stepping in, the Matriarch and the Shredder. Just the names tell you these aren't lightweight adds, they're high-threat arcs that push players to rethink their engagement patterns. The Matriarch sounds like a boss-tier unit, slower but heavily armored, maybe with shield mechanics or splash damage that punishes grouping. The Shredder, on the other hand, feels like the opposite. Fast, aggressive, and meant to pressure teams that rely too much on static defense. These 2 working together could force squads to split roles cleanly, one handling control, one on support, and one focusing damage output. That's where the new gear starts to really matter. We're getting the Energy Burst Battle Rifle, a weapon designed for mid-range sustained damage. Think consistent bursts rather than spray. Great for holding lanes or breaking armor. Then there are the 3 new mines: Impulse, Timed, and Gas Jump. Each one changes the rhythm of how you defend or escape. Impulse mines can knock enemies back or disrupt formations. Timed mines let you play in ambushes or protect key points. Gas Jump mines add a vertical trick, basically turning traps into movement tools. They'll be especially useful on maps with multiple levels or uneven terrain, which is exactly what Stella Montis promises. And that's not all. The update brings new grenades and 2 augments called Lone Wolf and Trailblazer. Those 2 are particularly interesting because they suggest new playstyle identities. Lone Wolf probably boosts survivability or self-reliance when you're not near teammates, a subtle nudge for solo players who want a fair shot. Trailblazer, on the other hand, screams mobility. It likely helps you cover ground faster, maybe increasing sprint or slide efficiency. Together, they open up more diverse approaches to missions. Maybe one player goes all in on speed and recon while another builds for area denial and crowd control. Here's a smart way to approach your first sessions. The first 5 rounds after the update, don't worry about experimenting. Just get clean event runs done. Knock out the missions that reward the materials needed for the community unlock. Once you've contributed enough, then shift gears into testing the new tools. Run the Energy Burst Battle Rifle in low-stakes missions first. You need to understand its recoil pattern, burst rhythm, and effective range before you rely on it in higher-level raids. Try each mine type separately. One run with just Impulse, another with Timed, and another with Gas Jump. That's how you learn their effective radius and timing instead of spamming them blindly and wondering why nothing triggers. You'll also want to pay attention to how your squad composition interacts with these new tools. Mines become exponentially more powerful when your teammates understand how you're using them. For example, if one player sets up a defensive line with timed mines, the others need to know not to trigger them early or kite enemies the wrong direction. Gas jump mines especially could mess up your own team's positioning if used without communication. On the flip side, a well-coordinated squad can turn those mines into miniature fortresses. Think of bottlenecking a corridor with impulse mines, and then raining fire from the high ground. Now, about that the economy changes in this update. Embark is adjusting cosmetic pricing and refunding players who bought items at the old rates. That's a strong move. It tells the community the devs are paying attention and actually willing to correct missteps. This kind of goodwill goes a long way in keeping a live service title healthy, especially early in its life cycle. The lower prices might also encourage more people to support the game voluntarily instead of feeling pressured by FOMO-driven cosmetics. My advice, wait a few days before making new purchases. Let the new pricing settle, see what's in rotation, and check for any bonus offers that might come with the compensation wave. Let's shift back to gameplay for a second, because new enemies and new weapons always mean a shift in the meta. The Matriarch likely demands heavier burst damage or sustained fire from a distance, which plays into the strengths of the battle rifle. The Shredder, meanwhile, will probably punish anyone who camps or holds ground too long, so mobility augments like Trailblazer are practically designed to counter that threat. If your team keeps wiping to fast movers or ranged attacks, look at your loadout synergy. One player running suppression with mines, one focusing on revives, and one maintaining mobility balance usually works wonders. I'm expecting early chaos during the first few days of the event. Whenever a community-wide unlock hits, there's always a massive influx of players trying to grind progress at the same time. Queues might get longer, matchmaking might hiccup, and the first day will probably have some network congestion. If you plan to stream or record content, have backup segments ready. Test weapons, discuss patch notes, show community progress, anything that keeps your content flowing while the servers stabilize. If you're just playing casually, consider jumping in during off-peak hours. You'll still contribute just as much, and your runs will go smoother. Now, thinking about this from a broader perspective, Embark is experimenting with how to make their world feel alive without dropping endless solo missions. The community unlock idea isn't just a gimmick, it's a social mechanic. It creates shared momentum, that collective sense of we're doing this together. It's a way of turning progression into a live event, even when you're not in a group. If it works well, you can expect them to use this structure again, maybe with different resources, global timers, or even competition between factions. It's a clever middle ground between MMO-style world events and a straightforward looter-shooter grind. Now let's talk strategy for handling the new threats. Against heavy enemies like the Matriarch, you'll want clean positioning. Keep your mines at mid-range, not directly underfoot. The moment she commits to a charge or projectile attack, backpedal into your minefield and bait her through it. If you're running the battle rifle, burst in controlled intervals rather than holding the trigger. Ammo conservation is going to be important here because these enemies will likely take longer to go down than standard arcs. Against Shredders, on the other hand, the key will be momentum, constant movement, flanking, and spacing. Mines will be less useful unless you predict their approach routes, so grenades and quick burst damage weapons might serve you better. The best loadout strategy right now is adaptability. Keep one flexible slot in your setup, whether it's a secondary weapon or utility slot, and rotate it depending on the mission type. That way, you can adjust to whatever enemy composition you encounter without wasting time in the loadout screen. If you're playing with randoms, communicate quickly through pings or short chat bursts to indicate your role. One of the most underrated advantages in Arc Raiders is coordination. Even basic communication multiplies your effectiveness when facing high-tier arcs. By the time the community completes the Breaking New Ground event, the map unlock will likely coincide with new progression tiers or additional missions. There's also a tease that Phase 2 will introduce more challenges tied to this event, possibly expanding the narrative or adding new crafting elements. So the work you're doing now isn't just unlocking a location, it's setting the stage for everything that comes next. That's a refreshing approach compared to updates that just drop new zones without any context. Here, your effort literally shapes what becomes available next month. One last thing I really like about this update is how it ties mechanics to social motivation. Lower cosmetic prices encourage more people to stick around. Community goals keep everyone engaged beyond personal loot.